Okay, we are back to our modify command. So we have done erase, move, and copy. So I have this object right here, and we're going to go into the next three modify commands, which is going to be rotate, which is right here. We're going to scale, and we're going to mirror. Okay, so we're going to do those three together right now. The first one is going to be rotate. So if I go and click rotate, the first thing my command line is going to say is select your object. So I go and select my object in any way that I know. I've selected and I hit enter. Now it says specify base point. Where do I want to rotate this object from? Well, I'm going to pick this point for now. And I'm going to say from here. And I can rotate it 45 degrees. If I have my polar tracking on, I can simply go and type 90 for 90 degrees. And it will rotate. I can undo that. I can say rotate this object from this point, and I can do it at 315 degrees, and it will do 315 degrees right there. I can go undo, but I can also go and rotate my object to a particular or to a specific angle. So let's say that I had a line right here, okay, and another line right here with some random given angles. And I say, you know what, I want to rotate this, and I want the leg, this part of my object, to align with this line right here. Or I want this other leg right here aligning with this line right here. So if I go rotate, select my object, hit enter, and say specify base point right here. So I click my base point, and instead of simply rotating and trying to eyeball it, make sure that it goes in the same direction. It appears to be, but we know we're not supposed to eyeball. We're never gonna eyeball in AutoCAD. I go to my option down here called reference, click on it. My original angles from here to here, and this is my reference. This is my new angle. So when I do that, I am certain that this back leg is going at the exact same angle as that one is right now, because that is my reference. Undo and say, you know what, no, I want to rotate this object, but I actually want that to go from this other leg right here, okay, where my cursor is, but I want this to align with this line right here. So I said select object, enter, specify point. This is my endpoint right here, and I want to go to a reference. So I want this leg from here to there to align with this existing line right here. And then I can do that very quickly. So that is rotate. Undo, undo, I put this right here. And I said I don't need these lines right now, so I simply go select them and erase, because I already know how to erase already. The next one's going to be scaling. Okay, scale right here. There's your icon right here. So I'm going to scale this object. The first thing my computer's asking me is to select my object. So I simply go select my object right here. Every time I select something, I have to hit enter so that the program recognizes that I'm ready to move to the next step. So specify base point. I'm going to use this base point again as my reference. So I'll go there, and I simply make this object any size that I want. I can make it twice as big. I can make it half the size. I can simply, accommodate, if it's just for visual purposes, then I can just go and increase the size or decrease it depending on what I need. So I can just make it, let's say 0.5, so half the size. So now it's too small, so undo. I'm gonna go again and scale it, select it, and simply go from the point, and I'm gonna make it twice as big now. So 2 times makes it twice as big. Am I satisfied with that? Well, that's good enough. That's what I need, then that's what I do. But sometimes we want to scale something. There are occasions where we have to have a reference so that we can make our original object either larger or smaller, but to a particular reference. measurement or a reference point or a reference distance, whatever that case happens to be. So let's say that I had this object right here. And I say, you know what? I want this object to be this much bigger. So if I go and I simply scale this from here to the original measurement right here, I'm not really sure what that is, but I want to make sure that when I scale this, everything goes up or down in proportion. So if I say, you know what, I'm going to scale my object right here, and I want this to be in reference to this new line right here. This part of my base right here needs to be as big as this new line right here. So I select my object and I hit enter. And I go to my specify base point right here. And instead of simply making it twice as big, half the size, whatever that case happens to be, I'm going to go to my reference option right here. And I'm going to say, this length is my original length. Okay, that's the first measurement you're going to select. And I want that to be this big. So now if I were to go and select, there's that new reference line, and my object actually grew in proportion in all directions to the new reference right here. So undo, okay, just so that we can see it in a different direction. So I'm going to delete this one, but I'm going to say, well, I want this leg to be this new distance. So I go scale my object, enter, base point right here, but instead of just going, as I said earlier, twice as big, half the size, I'm going to go as a reference from this point to this point, and I want that line to increase and be this big. And that allows me to enlarge, scale this object to that new reference. So now that we have this object, I'm gonna undo, okay, so that I can perhaps go to my original size. I'm going to delete this, you know how to erase, and I'm gonna make a copy of it, but not on the conventional way of making a copy of as we did earlier. If I just go and make a copy of this one, I can go this way, make multiple copies, go right here, but it doesn't give me symmetry. And what do I mean by that? If I go here and I say, okay, let me move this object a little bit just so that I can have a little more room to play with. So I'm gonna go right here. And I say, you know what? I want this object to have an image, a copy image on the opposite side, which will give me this end on the opposite side. That's the mirror image that I want. So I'm gonna go and say mirror, select my object, hit enter, and then from this reference point, I'm gonna go and say, okay, I want to create that. That looks good. It's symmetrical. It gives me the same thing in both ends of the object, both sides. So I simply go and I can tell 90 degrees, 270. See, I go 90 up there. I go 270 down. It's going to give me the same result. If I just use my ortho to keep a particular direction, I can just go straight up and down or across, and it gives me that image. So I'm just going to go in the y direction, 90 degrees. I could type 90 if I wanted to. I'm just going to click right here, and the question is going to be erase source object. That means, are you going to erase your original one, or do you want to keep it? Let's say that if I don't want it, we say yes, and it will delete it, and then you end up with this new mirror image. But I'm going to say no, I'm going to keep them both. So I hit do not erase, and then it gives me this new image. So it gives me symmetry from this midpoint, from the center point. It creates a copy and it mirrors this end to the other end. Okay, it doesn't give me just a copy as the conventional copy would if I just go right here. So see that? It will be totally different. So it's the same thing. You're in essence, when you copy or when you mirror something, you're making, let's say, a copy of the original object, but the mirror is a complete different image. Okay, So that gives us the symmetry right here. Let's say that I had that one and I want to create another image. I'm going to mirror this, okay, from this midpoint. I have to be exact. So I go from here and I said, okay, I can type 0, I can type 180, I can simply go and click somewhere right here. The same question will show up. Do you want to erase the source object? I'm going to say for now, no. So I have a new image. Now you can see that this part reflects on the opposite end. The center point, the mirror line, stays right here, and from there it is that you can create that image. If I wanted to go even a little further, I can say mirror this image, go to my reference point right here, and perhaps now I can go and say, okay, let me activate my polar tracking, my F10, and I'm going to go 45 degrees. I could type 45 degrees if I wanted to. But I go and I said, okay, 45 degrees. No, do not erase my source object. So I hit no. And now I have a symmetrical object in all directions through my mirror command right here. Okay? All right.